Podcasting is networking. Cafe Networking Podcast promotes entrepreneurs, business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Riak, known as the King of Networking, connecting people and speaking from my studio in Brazil. Today we talk with Rich Alderton, and he's joining us from Cambridge, England. Rich Alderton is an adaptability advisor at High Performance Change. On his journey from the shop floor to the boardroom, he realized that people at all levels struggle with change. He has dedicated his career to helping people raise their adaptability intelligence. So, Rich, what is adaptability intelligence?
Okay, hi, Tom. Let's take both of those words separately. The easy one to start with, intelligence, which is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge. And we really use that phrase to make it clear to everybody that adaptability is something that you can learn, which is news to many people. We subconsciously think that we can't. And in terms of what adaptability is, I define that in three ways. It's about having the curiosity to see the need or opportunity for change. It's about having the courage to embrace it. And it's about having the speed to make it happen quickly enough for it to be relevant.
Well, speed is, I think today, in today's world, post-pandemic, speed is of essence because change needs to come everywhere. And really, the faster we get there, the better off we are.
Yeah, even if you're moving in the right direction, if you're not going fast enough, you're still going to get run over.
And the world's going so fast because we receive inputs, every 3.5 seconds.
That's right. And one of the key principles or drivers for adaptability is that if your external environment is moving faster than your internal environment, there's only one conclusion to that scenario, and that is that you're going to start falling behind if you're not already, until eventually, sooner or later, you're going to fall over.
Well, like for the self-employed or a startup, that may be easier because you're talking about one person. But in a corporate environment, how do you do that with a company?
I work with leadership teams, tend to work from the top down because we're talking about a change of behavior here, and that behavior has to be modeled from the top down. So I work with CEOs and exec teams, and then I filter that down. In very large companies, I do a train the trainer type model because it's just not economic for me to be training, hundreds and thousands of people.
Well, really, too, it has to start with 1, 2, or 10, and not a million.
That's right. Yeah. So I work with a group of about 15 at a time because that's big enough to get some critical mass, to get some discussion going, but it's small enough that people can have the time and airtime that they need to talk about what are some pretty sensitive issues that you have to cover when you're trying to convince people to develop their adaptability.
I checked out your site and I saw there too that what you say is that the people really focus on how risky and expensive change is, and they tend to overlook the benefits. Do you revamp that? Do you help them look in the right direction?
Yeah, I do. That comment is really based on a theory of psychology called loss aversion, which is that we're much more concerned about losing something bad than we are about gaining something good. We are designed to be risk averse, and fine, that's kept us alive for the last 50,000 years, and it's why we're still around today and the saber-toothed tiger isn't. But we need to understand that because, as you say, the world is moving so much faster these days. We've got to move fast with it, and we've got to be able to prepare to take some risks in order to keep up and keep ahead.
Well, I found that so vivid here in Brazil, my time here, that more Brazilians, they're prepared for failure than they are prepared for success. And so when you try to talk and say, no, change because it will be better, it always comes back with the what if. And I said, well, what if you succeed? Are you ready to succeed? And many times that stuns people.
Yeah, this negativity bias that we have built in says what could possibly go wrong, not what could possibly go right. And when you couple that up with this thing that we have that no other species on the planet has called imagination, you put negativity bias with a highly active imagination, and we can start creating all kinds of scenarios for ourselves that that are, terrifying and keep us grounded in the status quo.
Well, so this negativity situation is not typical just here in Brazil. You've seen that everywhere else.
It's completely human. Resistance to change is entirely human. And in my experience, it doesn't matter how high up the organization you are, what your background is, what your age. What I've found on my journey is that most people resist most change most of the time. And I've worked with people. I've visited where you are in Campinas. I've had teams all over the world on 4 continents, and it doesn't make any difference. People tend to resist change, and that might have been okay 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but it's not okay anymore. And here's the thing: if you are resistant to change in a world that's changing fast, then you're only going to become less and less engaged in your own life as time goes by from today onwards. And, I'm really trying to do something about that.
Well, it needs to be done, because you mentioned 10, 15 years ago really was what I saw here in Brazil and other places, the change to global platforms within companies. And obviously technology helped that. We were able to communicate with communication platforms around the world 24/7. And, we weren't tied to a telex or an email or other things in the past. But so really to have people understand that the world is round and there are things happening 24/7. And for multinational global corporations, that's the way it is. It's passing off the day to the next time zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's not just technology, it's demographics, it's geopolitics, it's health. Look at what COVID has done. Whoever saw that coming?
Right.
There is so much coming at us now, let alone the everyday challenges of dealing with competitors and stakeholders and investors and all that normal stuff. We've got all this bigger stuff happening to us right now as well. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon.
That normal stuff is not normal anymore. But anyway, Rich, how can our listeners find you?
Okay, so if you look me up on www.highperformancechange.com, all of my contact details are in there. There's a whole load of free resources in there, blogs, there's a video on there, access to the High Performance Change program. I'd love to hear from any of your listeners who have been spiked to think a bit more about adaptability.
Well, I'm sure they will. Well, Rich, thanks again for being part of our program today.
And thanks for having me on, Tom. Appreciate it.
Okay, and for our audience, again, it's Rich Alderton. That's R-I-C-H. The last name is A-L-D-E-R-T-O-N. You find him on LinkedIn and his site, which is highperformancechange.com. highperformancechange.com. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus Semi Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information on their site, focusmi.com. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Cafe and Networking Podcast.